Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're here with Lisa Erickson and her new book, Chakra Empowerment for Women. The link to order the book is in the top of the chat. And then just a few PSAs for the store. We have an event next Saturday called Wool Talk, where we're talking to the author of Raw Material and a dyer, and they'll be in conversation with each other. And everybody's name just went out of my head. So it's Sunday. Anyway, we're going to get started with Lisa, and hopefully everybody will be aligned when this is over. So take it away, Lisa.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Two Rivers for sponsoring this event. I'm really excited to support an independent bookstore. And yeah, that's really the goal of this. None of us can do in-person book events right now. So this was an opportunity as an author to share my work and hopefully spur you to buy the book from them, from Two Rivers, if you're interested in doing so after you've heard a little bit more about it. And today we're going to talk about women's energetics. And what I'd like to do, I'm going to talk for, I think, about 40 minutes, and that is going to include 2 guided exercises, one which we'll do pretty soon in a couple of minutes after I've done a brief introduction. 2 guided exercises. I don't quite call them meditations, but they are, some other people might call them meditations. They're guided work, visualizations, affirmation work that we'll do together to introduce you to this topic. And then in the last 15, 20 minutes, I'll open it up to questions. You should see a Ask a Question link on the bottom of your screen, and that's where you'll type in questions. There is also the chat feature that's showing right there. And if you put something there, I'll try to look there too. But for the most part, I'll try to answer questions at the end. Of course, if you can't understand me or I'm speaking too quickly, the sound dropped off. I just got from Michelle. Okay.
It could just be delayed.
Okay, maybe just a delay. We'll see. Text back, Michelle, if it's coming back on for you. Everything on my end.
To me.
Huh?
You're fine to me.
Fine to you?
Yep.
Okay, I'll keep going. And if anyone else can type into the text bar if they're able to hear me or not. So if we know if we have a wider problem. On my end, everything looks okay. So that's what I'm going with. Sounds good here. Okay. Sorry, Michelle. Okay. So women's energetics. I'm going to start from the real basics. I know some of you may already know a bit about the chakras and energy body teachings, or you may be totally new to it. So I'm going to do a brief introduction and then guide you through the first exercise. We have an energy anatomy, just like we have a physical anatomy. And the chakras would perhaps be equivalent to the organs in that energy anatomy. They are the main energy centers in our body. And we have a lot of other more minor energy centers throughout our body. We also have different channels that go by different names in different traditions. The meridians in Chinese medicine, the nadi in yoga traditions. But the chakras are these main energy centers, and the 7 that are the most well-known in the West that you'll see often on the wall of your local yoga studio on a picture are 7 chakras aligned along the spine from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And we're going to do an exercise in a minute that will introduce you to all 7 of those. The chakra teachings, energy body teachings, developed in 2 different branches historically. They developed in spiritual traditions, which includes yoga, because physical yoga originally developed as a preparation for meditation. And the asanas, the physical postures, were actually designed not only to align your physical body on the muscular and bone level, but to align the chakras and the energies flowing through them. So a good yoga sequence, a certain sequence of postures, is releasing, aligning, balancing the energies that move through the chakras and the channels associated with them. And that piece is really linked to your physical body. But on the other hand, the chakras are also a link into emotional and energetic states. So each chakra is linked to different emotions. Something like the heart is, as you might imagine, the heart center or heart chakra, linked to feelings of love and compassion, our ability to receive love, even our feelings of worthiness about ourselves, because it's linked to our self-love, right? So the heart chakra is linked to all of those emotions, and I'll go through all of them in a minute. So when you're working with the chakras, you might be focused on kind of the energy medicine level, the level of balancing the energy in relation to your physical body for physical healing, because each chakra is linked to different body parts and different glands and endocrines. Or you might be focused on personal development, mental health, and spiritual awakening, spiritual developing. The chakras are involved in all of those things. The other branch then that the chakra teachings developed in is specifically in energy healing traditions, where it's very focused on physical symptoms and aligning the energy to address physical symptoms. Now, in a holistic healing, right, mind and body are all connected. So you're going to approach any particular physical ailment from all directions, right? As the mind connection, the physical connection, the chakras are right there in that intersection of mind, body, and spirit, and you can address them from all those different perspectives. What's interesting is that because there's this layer that's connected to the physical body, there are differences in the way the energy flows in men's and women's energy bodies. And what's interesting is that if we use masculine and feminine as this spectrum, we all have masculine and feminine energies within us. This also, looking at these energies in this way, can really open things up for individuals who identify as trans or non-gendered, non-binary, to really place themselves on the spectrum, what energies they associate with in terms of masculine and feminine. And really the goal is for all of us to be able to open up to all of those energies and not have it tied to gender. But at the level that connects to the physical body, women are anchored in the second chakra, which we'll get into in a minute. And that means that there's energetic shifts that do correspond to menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause. And that's a little bit what we're going to get into today. I'm going to do this general introduction to the chakras. Then I'm going to walk you through women's energetics, which is how our energy body changes at each of these life transits. And then I'm going to get a little bit into sexual trauma healing and how the chakras can be helpful if someone has experienced sexual abuse or assault, because that is a big focus of mine as well. And there are sections of the book that address that as well. Okay, so to set up our first exercise, I'm just going to show you a picture of the chakras, the 7 chakra system that we're going to use today. I decided to just show you the book instead of doing a share screen, because share screen I don't have to deal with buttons then. So this is from Chakra Empowerment. You may have seen a picture like this before. We have chakras 1 through 7 aligning from the tailbone up to the crown of the head. In this particular picture, we're using the rainbow spectrum of light, right? We're starting with red at the bottom, then orange, then yellow. In fact, different colors are used in different chakras at different times. But for today, we're going to use this color spectrum as a way of connecting with each of the chakras. What I'm going to do is introduce you to the 7 chakras by guiding you through focusing on each part of your body, using that color and an affirmational statement that ties to the psychological states, some of them, or the energies related to that chakra. So I'd like you to just follow along for now. If this is totally new to you, afterwards I'll explain it a little bit more. But during the exercise, just follow along. So I invite you can close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. With chakra work of this type, it generally is advised that you do sit in an upright posture as you would in meditation, if that's comfortable, as opposed to lying down, because you're actually trying to move different energies up through the chakras as you do it. But if you're more comfortable lying down, that's fine as well. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can just lower your eyes to kind of bring your focus inward. And we'll start by focusing at our tailbone, the focal point for the first or root chakra. And if you are able to, you may want to reach around behind you and actually try to touch your tailbone. This is the very bottom of your spine, right? almost down at your sit bones. And just apply a little pressure there and focus on that physical point in your body. Breathe into this space. And if you want to experiment with color, visualize a little ball of red light right at your tailbone. Even just the process of bringing our energy down like this can be a great aid to stress management, because when we're stressed, all of our energy tends to pop upwards. So really allow yourself to breathe deeply, low in your body, and brighten this red light. Imagine your breath brightens this red light at your tailbone. And now you can experiment with these affirmations. Just try them after I say them out loud. You say them yourself and try to feel this feeling as you focus on this energy center. I am grounded and present in my body. I am safe and secure in my body. Good. And normally you could spend all the time you want there. We're going to move up to the second chakra. So you can move your hand to really low in your pelvis. I work with this chakra, especially for women, as really being in the womb space, the womb area. So down between your hip bones. And if you've had a hysterectomy, this chakra is still there in that space. The energetic womb is still there. Visualize orange light here in this space, in your pelvic bowl. This is a fluid chakra. So if you like to wave back and forth, you could sway a little bit. That's up to you. And say, I am fluid and adaptable. I embrace my emotions and inspiration. Great. We'll move a little faster just because I want to make sure we get to everything. Go up to your navel chakra. So if you're familiar with the chakras, a lot of people will use the solar plexus kind of right under your rib cage as a focal point. For women, I prefer to use the navel, and I'll talk a little bit about why later, but it's the same chakra, the third chakra. So focus just below your navel and visualize a little ball of yellow light there. You can hold one hand there again. Again, imagine your breath is lighting up this ball of yellow light. And say, I am centered and focused. I own my power. Good. Now up at your heart chakra. So this is right at the indentation in your chest cavity here between your breasts. You can hold a hand here. You can go like this. You can do prayer hands. Visualize a beautiful green light. This green is the color of like fresh spring leaves. And I know green can seem to Westerners an unusual color for the heart chakra. So think in terms of spring leaves, new, fresh growth. Beautiful green light under your hands, in your chest. I am loved and loving. I am open and at peace. Now up to the throat chakra. And on this one, it can be fun to just hold a finger there very gently and do a light hum to feel the vibration as you visualize a blue light. So you would go hum, and imagine that vibration of sound is creating this blue light. I speak my truth. I am authentic and honest. Then up to the third eye. And if you like here, you can also use a finger. Just take the midpoint of your brow and go up just slightly. And just press and release. Press and release. Under that very light pressure, feel or imagine a purple light. I am insightful and intuitive. I have vision for new potentials. Then up to your crown, and it's right where my little messy bun is. It's towards the back of your head at the top. You know, you can get, if your arm gets tired, obviously you don't have to hold it up there. You want to hold it just a little bit above your head because this chakra is considered part in your head and part out of your head. Visualize a deep blue light. You'll often see gold here too. That's like halos in religious art. But in this rainbow spectrum that we're using, we're at this dark blue, which is almost like the absence of light, right? It's space, like outer space. And visualize that there in a ball that's half in, half out of your head, reaching up to your hand. My life has meaning and value. I have faith. And what that faith is in is up to you, but that is what this chakra is linked to, that sense of connection to some faith in some meaning or value that gives your life its ground, its foundation in that sense. Good. Great. Well, that is the quick and dirty introduction to the 7 chakras. And what we're doing there is introducing the locations, right? The colors, if you choose to use the rainbow colors, and a little bit about the emotional or psychological states associated with each chakra. It's much more, there's a lot more depth to it than what we're able to do with 2 affirmations on each chakra, but you get the general idea. And part of the value of working with the chakras is they work vibrationally on a non-lingual basis, right? So if you need more of a certain energy in your life, or if you're blocked in a certain way, you have difficulty speaking your truth, right? You're going to work with that chakra, trying to empower it with various exercises, the exercises I have in my book. The book is very exercise oriented. It's specific empowerments for each chakra, right? You're going to work with that every day for a few minutes to actually bring that vibration into your energy body, into your physical body, into your psyche. And it has its own transformative power, right? And what I always say to people is just give it a try. If that sounds too far out to you, just give it a try. It is an incredible tool for personal affirmation and growth. It's an incredible companion to therapy. That's why I use it with sexual trauma survivors, because in a therapeutic setting, you're maybe coming to understand why you have certain blocks. For example, a difficulty speaking in public, or patterns of unhealthy relationships at the heart, or difficulty owning your power related to the navel chakra, et cetera, et cetera. But you learn why, but then it's another step to be able to shift that. You're really trying to reprogram your emotional blueprint, you might say. And that is part of what chakra work helps you to do. And I don't always work with affirmations. I do that in this setting because it's a quick way to help people learn about the chakras. There's also powerful ways to work with memories of time in which you did feel certain energies coming forth, and learning how to feel those in your body. And there's a lot of other techniques as well, but some of the ones that are most accessible are these visual techniques with color, and these affirmational or memory-based exercises that help you bring that feeling. The whole point is to feel it, right? We feel our emotions, right? When you feel love for someone, or you want to hug someone, you actually feel it as a warmth in your heart, right? We have all of these phrases that almost seem as if they are linked to the chakras, right? We have, in addition to, things in the heart, we have heartbreak, right? When your heart breaks, we all understand when you've had heartbreak, you do actually feel it here as a pain, right? Well, is that in your physical heart? No, your physical heart's actually over here. We use phrases like fire in the belly, right? That navel chakra is linked to personal power and that sense of drive and moving forward. It's like fire, literally fire in your belly. Fire is actually the element associated with that chakra. So we have these things that allude to this energy that links both to our body and to our psychological state. And the chakras are the bridge to that, to working with that. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit of women's energetics, because that's the specifics I want to get into that isn't as well known, really. And that second chakra that is in our pelvis, that's where the feminine energy body tends to be anchored. And as I said, it's a spectrum. So you can kind of figure out what resonates for you and what doesn't. The masculine energy body type tends to be anchored in the root chakra, the first chakra at the tailbone. So let's talk a little bit about those two chakras, because they're the foundation of the house. They're the first two chakras in the system, and then everything's built on top of that. So the root chakra, and we all, again, have both yin and yang, masculine and feminine. That root chakra is about our connection to body. It's linked to the physical body. It's connected to the element earth. So it literally is like the foundation under our feet. It's this very stable, grounded energy. And psychologically, then, it's linked to our ability to feel safe and secure in our body. So if we look at masculine archetypes that are positive, it's a lot of those kinds of energies: protection, groundedness, very stabilizing energy. Then in the sacral chakra, the second chakra represents the first of the yin chakras. They kind of go yang, yin, yang, yin, up through the seven. The yin chakra, it's linked to the element water. It's about fluidity and adaptability. So the first chakra is like this ground, and then you have fluid adaptability, right? And it's about nurturing energies, receptive energies. It's about empathy, this connection, this energetic connection to everyone around us, all of those kinds of energies. It's also about creative inspiration, right? This chakra is linked to birthing, right? And birthing children is one way that birthing happens. But anytime we create anything, we're birthing it, right? You birth a business, you birth a birthday party, you birth the outfit that you pick out for the day, right? You didn't maybe create all of it, but in terms of you putting it together, what you want to look like today, what you feel like. Some people put more effort into that than others. But, we're creating all the time throughout our day and life. That's all this second chakra energy. It's also linked to sensuality and sexuality. So it's linked to pleasure in that sense. It's linked to our capacity to receive and give pleasure and to experience pleasure, right? So you have this yang energy and this yin energy, and we're all trying to balance both. Men tend to be anchored more in the root chakra. and how that often expressed, especially right now in our cultural conditioning of this day and age, is that if there are blocks, if that energy is not fully positively expressed, it reflects as rigidity, emotional rigidity, physical rigidity. And that will be in, this is very abstract, but in generalized, but on the energy body level, that is, and culturally, that is the obstructive expression of that chakra, you might say, is this kind of rigidity. And when I'm working with men energetically, almost always the first thing we need to work with is energetic fluidity for that reason. And especially opening up the emotional expression, because that is often so culturally repressed for men and boys in this day and age. Now, which comes first? The cultural conditioning? Does it cause the energetic makeup, or does the energetic makeup contribute to that cultural conditioning? This is part of what will start to unfold in this day and age as we're redefining a lot of these traits. As we've moved forward the last decades in helping women to gain access to social and political and cultural power, what sometimes happened is we actually denigrated yin traits, right? It was more about women adapting to male power structures and gaining power within those structures, as opposed to transforming those structures, right? Now, I mean, there was some transformation that occurred, but now we're starting to recognize, no, we need actual redoing of the underlying structures, which to me on the energetic planes reflects as a rebalancing of masculine and feminine energies. So that's how this reflects in terms of cultural conditioning, our psyche, this society. It's all one big matrix. When we move up to the second chakra for women, then if it's obstructed, the issue, because women are already anchored in that second chakra, when they have energy body blocks, it often reflects as issues with boundaries, because this is a very receptive chakra. So of course, men and women can be empaths, but women tend to absorb more naturally and more unconsciously, sense and absorb the energies of others. And if they're not boundaried very well, and that's really the navel and the root chakra, they often are absorbing the other people's emotions as their own and not realizing it. And there's a lot of cultural conditioning that feeds into this too. We're still conditioned quite a bit to take on responsibility for other people's emotions, right? So that means we're always feeling out everyone's emotions, making sure everybody's okay, all of that, but then potentially absorbing those emotions into our own body. So that's an obstructive second chakra. That's one of the ways that it can reflect. And of course, there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of cultural conditioning in this. I have 3 teenagers, and 2 of them are boy-girl 14-year-old twins. So I see this all the time, because I'm still I've kind of been shocked in the process of raising them, in a progressive LA suburb, still how much cultural conditioning, especially around emotions, that we have, and how boys are still so discouraged in certain ways to show more sensitive or vulnerable emotions, and how girls are still so conditioned really to take responsibility for everybody's emotions around them. And that is really very much reflected in the kinds of obstructions we see at that first and second chakra. Okay, hopefully that's somewhat clear. Now getting into cycles for women, because we're linked in that second chakra. This is the anchor for all of our power, right? On the energetic level. It is actually a chakra that ebbs and flows. I said it's connected to water. As we know, our cycles, our natural menstrual cycle, it's the same length of time. The average is as a moon cycle, right? We've got all of this connection, which is linked to the tides. We've got all this water, ebb and flow, waxing and waning types of metaphors for feminine energy. And that's really reflected in the second chakra, which is almost like a flower. It's like it opens and closes every month when we're still in that phase of life that we're experiencing that monthly cycle. It's as we move into ovulation, that second chakra is really emanating. We have a lot more of what's called kundalini, which is one of the energies that moves through the chakras, releasing up through our system. And then as we move into menstruation, it's closing. It's like those dahlia, the flowers that open at night and close during the day, right? It's still a healthy flower, but it's turned inward, right, for introspection. And that is when we're actually the most connected to our intuition, to problem solving, to seeing things in a new way. So, if you're at all familiar with other kinds of women's spirituality traditions, none of this is new, but it's not always tied to that second chakra. And there's particular exercises that you can do to help you connect with the real emanating when you're at the peak of your cycle and the introspection, intuitive side of things when we're in. I think the main thing is learning to relate to our feminine power and that ebb and flow as a positive, powerful cycle in our life, right? Because a lot of the cultural messaging is just around how can we make this the least inconvenient possible, right? How can we make this the least, in other words, how can we try to be as much like men as possible, just always the same, make it as least inconvenient as possible? That's kind of the underlying message, right? As opposed to how do you own this as a power? So what happens with that sacral chakra in pregnancy is it gets open, and then it stays open, right? Especially the last trimester of pregnancy. It's the spiritual conduit for birth, like our bodies, the physical conduit. So it's this real, it's this open, this experience of experiencing the second chakra open for several months at a time. It's a profoundly spiritual experience if a woman has the time to tap into it. And for the most part, we don't really approach pregnancy that way. All of pregnancy is about getting ready for the baby, right? Getting ready for the birth and the baby after. And of course, many women are working and they're very busy. And there isn't sort of this messaging around, look, you're actually going through this spiritual process as you're going through the pregnancy, a spiritual process that is more than preparation for the baby to arrive into the world. It's actually this remapping of your energy body linked to these second chakra energies. It can be a creative rebirth for you. It can connect you to certain energies linked to primordial creation that may not have been available to you. Now, all of these energies, you don't have to have a baby to experience them. That's just one way that it might happen. Those energies are available anytime to both men and women. But for women, they're particularly potent, and exploring them is particularly integral to our energetic health. So finding a way to do that is a big part of it. Postpartum, it's often about that energies become just pooled down in the second chakra in our pelvis. And there's exercises you can do to pull it up. And that can help a lot with a woman getting her mojo back, right? In that very exhausting early stages, and reduce the risk of postpartum depression. There's a lot of other factors that go into reducing the risk of postpartum depression. But on an energetic level, this is one piece that can help, is exercises that are very quick, 1 or 2 minutes a day, bringing energy up from the second chakra up into the rest of the body. And I'm going to show you some of the pictures linked to these in a minute. The final thing I wanted to talk about in terms of women's energetics and the chakras is perimenopause and menopause, my favorite topic. And I'm 53, so I've completed menopause. I actually went through a little young in my late 40s. So I'm pretty much postmenopausal for a few years now. But we now know this perimenopause phase, the average age of menopause, in case you're not aware of this, is 52, meaning that's the average age that a woman's cycle has stopped for at least a year, because that's the medical definition of being postmenopausal or menopause, having completed menopause. So you haven't had a cycle for a year. But what we now know through various studies is that for up to 10 years before that point, a woman's cycle may be irregular or going kind of in and out of regular and irregular, right? What's so fascinating is that during that time that we're having these kundalini surges, right? That are then, I talked about how this kundalini, this energy of change that flows up, that's rooted in the root chakra for men and the second chakra for women, is surging a little bit at the peak of ovulation. It's also surging throughout perimenopause. That's part of what defines the midlife transit. There's an astrological component to that for anyone interested in astrology. We all experience something called the Uranus opposition around 42, 43, both men and women, obviously. And Uranus is the planet of the Kundalini or energy. So this is one of the things that gets triggered when we talk about the midlife crisis. This is often occurring in the few years after that time. Kundalini is the energy of change. This is a time of life when people are naturally looking back and saying, what works, what doesn't work in my life, or looking at their life and looking at it from the context of what have I done that I thought I was going to have done by now? What do I still want to do? And that kind of connection then with mortality and everything that's going on, this energy of change, Kundalini moving through, causes this questioning around that, right? Well, for women, this is even more pronounced and linked to perimenopause. And in spiritual traditions around the world that address things from an energetic perspective, this is a powerful, powerful time for a woman to rebirth, reconnect to her power in a new way if she has not done so already. So there's often events, messages, themes, or questioning that is occurring around ways that her power has been blocked, or that she has not been fully expressing some aspect of herself, and changes that need to occur. And there's energetic exercises that you can do to support the smoothing of those Kundalini surges to help you through that transformative process. It also can help with some of the symptoms. Things like night anxiety, hot flashes, and sweating flashes, hot flashes, and I'm blanking out on another one, migraines, etc. These are, interestingly enough, all in all the classic texts on Kundalini, also sometimes linked to Kundalini activation or the surging of Kundalini, even if you're going through it when you're in your 20s because you're doing exercises actually to bring the Kundalini up. It doesn't have to be that way. There's a way to do it in a very paced way. But if someone happens to overactivate a little bit or be going through an intense period of change, those same symptoms can occur. And then they occur in perimenopause, right? And of course, they are hormonally linked. And none of this is to say don't pursue treatment, holistic or otherwise, to help you with it on a physical level, but to also address it on an energetic level, how you can smooth this energy out so it's flowing from your sacral chakra through your whole chakra system and fueling this whole rebirth that can occur. So that as we age, as our cycle winds down, this physical bodily cycle that has been with us for 30, 35, 40 years, right? The opportunity is to now link even more deeply to our energy body, our chakras, our spiritual self, our power on this other vibratory level. It's considered a time when you can develop and harness occult abilities such as intuition or healing if you have an interest in that, artistic abilities, right? A lot of other things, whatever's been kind of laying there latent, it's a time when it can come forth with even greater depth because it's now coming from this deeper energetic connection. And we don't approach aging that way in our culture, but that's really what it's meant to be, is this transition from a fully physical identification to this energetic identification. So, okay, my power's running out here. Let me get my cord going. One final, just a minute or two on sexual trauma healing, not the main purpose of this class. And then we'll do one more exercise and I'll open it up to questions. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I like to do that. So you get a full picture. In sexual trauma healing, I work with both men and women, but especially for women, I find it a very helpful. Chakra work can be very helpful because it's non-invasive. And so many individuals find it a good component or complement to therapy they might be doing, or they find it less threatening, feels more safe and secure and comfortable for them than somatic body work and things like that. Because we do store trauma in our body. We store trauma in our energy body, and you can release it very gently by working with the chakras, as opposed to the body work, etc. And it can be a great complement to therapy where you're really focused on the narrative of what happened. With chakra work, you're not focused on trying to get a full recall of what happened to you or anything like that. You're focused on releasing places that trauma's held in your body or repatterning programs that have developed. For example, if you have patterns of disassociating from your body, from a chakra perspective, that's like all the energy rising up here because you don't feel comfortable and safe in your body. If you remember the affirmations on those first two lower chakras, we're all about feeling safe in the body. So we would do a lot of work with trauma on those lower two chakras, feeling comfortable. You're remapping that foundation of your house, and that has an impact on all of the other chakras above it. So what I've done in Chakra Empowerment for Women, just so you can understand how this is all tied together, is on the one hand, it's just a general chakra book. The first 7 chapters each focus on one of those chakras with an associated exercise. a how-to exercise on how to empower that chakra. And I have recordings on the book website tied to it. But then in each chapter, a section is on women's energetics, how it's tied to our cycle, to women's conditioning, and how you might want to work with it around healing and empowerment related to that. And then another section of each chapter is on sexual trauma healing, and if it's relevant, how you might use it as a complementary healing method for that. Then the last 5 chapters of the book are multi-chakra tools, which I won't get into today, but it gets into tools around boundaries, self-healing, and things like that. So I'll just show you some of the pictures and then we'll do one. So this, for example, is the root chakra. We're doing a bowl for safety. We're going to do this one right now, which is the sacral lotus, a lotus in the pelvis emanating spiritual light up. And one I like to show, even though we didn't get into it today, is boundaries. This one here is focused on the root and navel, creating a sense of an energetic boundary. People find this very helpful, doing it for a few weeks, just for a few minutes every day. It's like it changes your default when you walk out the door. It's like you're giving yourself permission to say, oh, I don't have to take that energy on. This is the feminine pathway one, and this is too hard to walk through right now, but it's kind of swirling light through the yin chakras. And this is the one that's very helpful postpartum and during perimenopause in terms of managing that energy upward and managing the smooth flow of it throughout. Okay. Oh, I ran a little over, but we will still have time for questions. Let's just do one more exercise if you guys are okay with that, and then we'll move into questions. So settle into your body. We're going to focus on that sacral chakra that I talked about so much. So you can close your eyes or lower them. And I invite you to place your hands low on your pelvis between your hip bones. And if you like, just sway back and forth very gently. And the image we're using here is of a lotus floating on top of a pond. So that's the swaying. So visualize in your pelvis beneath your hands a beautiful lotus flower facing upward made of light. So it's like a bowl like this sitting in your pelvis, but wide, reaching from hip to hip and stomach to spine. You can use the traditional color of orange and ember, or any color light really is fine. And then imagine that underneath the lotus, going down through your tailbone into the earth, is this strong stalk, just like a lotus anchors in the mud at the bottom of the pond, so it doesn't float away. So you have this swaying motion, this movement anchored into the earth. And then imagine swirls of light are swirling up through your body from this lotus in your pelvis. And if this light encounters any blocks, any negative energy, any stress, any disease, it just dissolves it. Until your whole body is filled with this swirling light, all of it sourced from deep in your pelvis. And if you like, you can do a couple affirmations. I'll do different ones from before. I embrace my yin and creative power. I meet life with joy and passion. I'm fluid and adaptable in the face of obstacles. Or you could just say, I'm in the flow. I flow with life. Good. Great. Well, thank you. And yeah, I'll open it up to questions. And I know I already had one beforehand. So let's see. Yeah. Is that the hot flashes? Is that
that was me, and I'm 56, so I'm probably got my last period in December. I still have a ton of hot flashes.
It takes.
So is that the Kundalini?
It is. So if you can embrace it, it's, you know, a positive thing. Now, there are a lot of things that can help, and you may already have read up on this, right? There are, for some people, dietary changes will reduce the hot flashes, because you can have Kundalini movement without the hot flashes. So there are ways to work holistically or with your diet to reduce the discomfort of the hot flashes. But part of learning to work with it is learning to, when it occurs, really try to address it as energy and relax into it a little bit and see if that helps. But then it's that feminine pathway one, I showed you a picture of it, that is a good chakra exercise to do every day. What it does is it moves the energy, it smooths it out, and that helps. What's so interesting is in Ayurvedic medicine, which, you know, this book is not energy, is so much focused on the medicines part. It's focused more on the psychological part. But each of the chakras is linked to an endocrine gland, and our entire endocrine and hormonal system is mapped to the chakras. And of course, for women, the second chakra gland that it's associated with is the ovaries, right? So it's right linked in with our Kundalini is essentially linked into our reproductive hormonal system. And that's why this is the way we experience it. Yeah. So some energy work might help, but I was also going to answer your question about, you asked about in this right now, when we're all just starting to emerge from our pandemic cocoons, how do we connect again with a sense of, you know, moving back out in the world? That's a lot of navel chakra, willpower, but also getting back this sense of self and activity after being, really, we've been in a very yin phase, reduced activity, most of us. Now, as we move back out, attention to boundaries and to that navel chakra, to re-engaging with a sense of being centered, motivated. That's really the fire. That's a lot of navel chakra focus can help with that. Okay, let's see what the other question is here. Do you have a favorite model or image of feminine power operating in the world? In the world as a person, or just in general, archetypes? Yeah, I mean, I tend to think in terms of the chakras. So for me, this sacral lotus, you know, that I showed you is everything in terms of the yin energy. I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite image or archetype, because I play with all of them. But I love that sacral lotus one, because it's this image of movement anchored, right? That's what a lotus is. It's movement anchored. In other words, it's not change just for the sake of change that's just ungrounded and flopping all over the place, right? But it's also not just the ground, which never moves, right? I mean, the ground does move, but it's much more that whole balance of movement that's grounded is everything, right? How do we move forward? How do we engage in change in a way that has direction and purpose, like all the social changes we're facing right now? How do we actually make structural change, right? Not just superficial change, but structural change that's meaningful, that's anchored, that's grounded. That's the perfect union of yin and yang, right? When we don't have the yang, the earth element, we just change for its own, change for change's sake, and there's no real structural difference. When we don't have the yin, there's no change at all, because there's no movement, you know? So I just think of everything in terms of that balance. Oh, okay. I guess I'm wondering about more out in the world, feminine power. What does it look like in practice? Well, that was kind of, for me, that's what it looks like. It looks like this balance of yin and yang. And I feel like what's happened is so many traits that were labeled feminine and still are, like nurturing, like receptivity, right? Like fluidity. got denigrated as women moved out into male power structures, right? And so while we gave women more power in those structures, very needed, we did not actually raise the value of those qualities, right? And what really needs to happen now is we're raising the value of those qualities for everyone, men, women, everyone, however you identify. Nurturing, receptivity, and fluidity should be valued, right? As opposed to rigidity, holding to that kind of thing. That yang has a place, right, in terms of stabilization. But when it becomes rigidity, yeah, I think you follow what I'm saying. So for me, it's all about what it looks like out in the world is that receptivity and fluidity being, valued, valued in everyone and by everyone. Okay. Any other questions? I know I threw a lot at you. I'm an information person, so I like to throw a lot out there and see what is helpful to people.
This was really great.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think it was perfect for today and perfect for where we are in how everything is happening right now. So I'm really grateful that you reached out to us to do this event.
Yeah, well, and I'm really great that you guys responded, because you just seem like the perfect store for something like this, for this topic. So very, very nice.
Yeah. I try to partner with every different kind of business and author.
Yeah.
Michelle says thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, obviously, I encourage you to get the book From Two Rivers. Go to their website and get it through them. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Chakra Empowerment, and my website is Chakra Empowerment for Women. So if you have further questions that come up, feel free to email me. But what I've done on the book website is I've put recordings of all the exercises in the book, but they're really meant to be used with the book. So I'm hoping I've made them free, but I'm hoping people actually buy the book to do the exercises, because otherwise you don't have the visuals. And I think those are very helpful, and the descriptions of how to use them in your life, because you can use these exercises just, 1 or 2 minutes at a time throughout your day. Or some of them you could use as a meditation that you sit with. You're like, oh, wow, I really want to work on my sacral chakra for 6 weeks. I'm going to do this every day for 6 weeks for 20 minutes, right? Or it can just be like these little snippets you use throughout your day. Oh, I'm about to go do a talk. I'm going to work on my throat chakra and my navel chakra right now to bring my confidence up and my sense of projecting my voice. And so that's kind of what I try to do in the book too, is help you make the chakras something you can use daily. That's
good. And I think we can link from the book page to your recordings. Okay. And then this event will also be recorded and people can come back to it.
Great.
Yeah.
Someone say, so the website is the same as the book. It's chakraempowermentforwomen.com. Yeah.
We don't have that in there. Let me drop it in the.
Yeah. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you'll find there. It's just Chakra Empowerment, those two places. So. And now we're at the magic 13 now in terms of the number of people, which.
Yeah, I love 13
number. As of most of you may know, 13 is the number of full moons in a year. So it's linked to the feminine. It's a magical number, not a bad number. Magical number. So
yeah, right now I'm dropping the link in the chat for your website for anyone who wants to listen to the exercises.
One more quick question. Should I answer that? Do we have time?
Go ahead. Sure.
Laura's asking, do you use a pendulum within your practice? I do not. I find that for those of you that aren't familiar with this, you can hold a pendulum over the chakras. Usually you do it when someone's laying down, and it will, the direction it's going and how much it moves can tell you different things, or can tell a healer different things about the functioning of that chakra. There are levels to the chakras. And that level is the level that tends to be linked most to the physical body. And you can get all your chakras balanced, say after a good yoga workout, and everything, you'll do the pendulum and everything's nice and smooth. that's like a different level than the level of these emotions and this personal development. You can come out of a yoga class and on this energetic, physical level, your chakras are very balanced. On another level, that doesn't mean you've worked out all the problems related to your heart chakra, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of that. The levels are linked, but it's that level of chakra clearing is almost like taking a shower. So I just find the pendulum only helpful for that level. I don't personally find it helpful for this deeper work. It's more how that you really have to be getting into emotions as you're feeling them in different parts of your day.
Yeah. Facebook. Yeah. DC.
Should I keep going? Okay. One more here. Oh, from Facebook. Okay. Just hopped on. What about grief work? Oh, hi, Beth. Okay. We're just finishing up, but they did say that they're going to put the recording up so you can hear more what we talked about. The chakras are very helpful. Energy work's helpful for dealing with any kind of pain. And certainly that's the case with grief as well, that working with your heart chakra, working to sit with your pain, feel it in your body, it can be very helpful then to balance that with chakra work, which gives you a sense of spaciousness that you can hold the pain that you're feeling and move through it. And certainly the sacral chakra is helpful with that because that's this chakra that has to do with cycles and flow. So when we focus on it, it gives us this larger sense of being in a larger process. And other chakras for stabilizing, the root chakra for stabilizing if we're really in a difficult place where we're finding it difficult to function. So I'm not sure if that's where you're going, Beth, but certainly chakra work can be helpful for dealing with the grief process. Okay.
All right. Well, that was perfect. We're just at an hour. So yay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Let us know if you have any questions. And thanks. Maybe we'll do another one.
Thank you. And everybody have a good night.
Good night.